Hi, test, test. 能听见吗? Can you hear me? Let me see. Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. Well, and that's even echo. Okay, you can hear me very well. 今天有可能会就是整场说很多英文，因为今天的书是一个英文书，然后很多东西就是英文的，所以我用中文很难表达它的意思，就我自己的能力就不怎么好，所以就需要很多。这个 stream 这个直播会有很多英文，先预告一下。如果大家不是很开心的话，可以就算了。对，那我们现在就开始。Okay, so I was just saying today's stream is going to be mostly in English, and it's I'm inspired to have this stream because I recently listened to a podcast. I've been listening to this podcast for a long time, but there was a topic recently called trauma, resilience, and healing, and that's the subject of today's stream. So this podcast is called Unlocking Us by Brene Brown, and this time she invited her guest speakers were Oprah and Dr. Bruce D. Perry. So they were talking about trauma, resilience, and healing. I'm inspired to listen to this podcast because I'm trying to understand my own some symptoms I have. For example, if you don't know, I've already quit my job for over a month ago, and technically my life is pretty free right now. Like I don't have a set schedule I need to deliver or report to someone, or certain meetings I must attend or host or be responsible for, etc. So ideally the life should be pretty chill or relaxed or I don't know, free, right? But I often feel this urge, or I often feel this interesting, I don't know how to describe, anxiousness, maybe that's the word, running through my brain and my body. Like I often, when I wake up in the morning, and I have to be trying very hard not to do this, but when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I automatically want to do is to open my YouTube Studio app or open my other app and check my metrics and see how have I been doing, how my videos have been doing, how my streams have been doing. I hate that I do this, but I can't help it. So I'm trying to understand why. Why do I must do it this way? And why do I must do it? Why do I feel so anxious? It's not like I need the money and poor or I don't know. And through reading a lot of self-help books and all these books around vulnerability and stuff like that, I kind of been searching for answers, and I think I found some answers, but I didn't 100% found. So that's why I'm listening to this podcast, and I realized I found certain answers. So I want to share with you. And by the way, most of the half of the time I'm able to overcome my urge to check the metrics in the morning and tell myself it's okay. You don't have to check the metrics, and it's okay either way. So half the time I'm able to win. Okay, so I took some notes, and half of it's from my notebook, like handwritten notes, and half of it I moved to the computer because I realized I lost a lot of the handwritten skill. Even in English, I don't write very good. So anyway, I'm gonna start by saying or asking the question, what is trauma? And trauma is, according to the Dr. Bruce D. Perry, he said that trauma is the three E's, right? The event itself, for example, a natural disaster, those are the events cause trauma. And the experience is what was the effect or the experience on the person during the traumatic event. And what was the effect is the third E. Did it lead to long-term effect trauma that defined by Dr. Bruce D. Perry? I'm just quoting from him. So recap is the event itself, the experience you had during the event, and the effect it had on you neurologically as this trauma happened. So I took notes that any pattern that activates your stress system that leads to the activation of how that system is functioning or alteration, sorry. So let me rephrase that. It says any pattern that activates your stress system that leads to the alteration of how that system is functioning, that leads to the overactivity of or overreactivity. So all people every day experience a little bit of negligence. So I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I kind of did. What I mean by that is it says negligence or neglected is the feeling that you don't belong, or the feeling that you're stupid, or the feeling that you're invisible. Something along that line is considered a feeling of being neglected. And the podcast said every day, every people or everybody experience some sort of deeds in more or less depends on the person. So I was trying to think back and see how did I live my 30 years of life and how much I experienced this during the different periods. And it says that it will activate the stress system if you prolong these events of feeling negligence. And that leads to the same effect as a real capital T trauma, which is like a natural disaster or death of a significant person in your life. Those are significant or capital T traumas, right? But thanks for 2 thumbs up, by the way, I noticed it. So the feeling of you don't belong, or if you're stupid, or you're just not important. So those are, if those feelings are happening in your life long enough, it causes the same effect as a capital T trauma. And if you continue to experience this, it's going to lead your stress system to alter, and that's not going to be healthy for you. Basically, that's it. Okay, and the podcast continued to talk about curiosity. So they were talking about your ability to feel curious about the world. It's directly related to your ability to feel safe and settled. So people who feel safe get the, well, I cannot even read my handwriting. That's why I changed the computer. Sorry, not prepared enough. Okay, so it says, or I wrote, people who feel safe get the feeling of the safe and familiar, so they go out to seek the world more. And if you come from an environment that allow you to have a good days, and then you have more open up, you have, okay, sorry, okay, let me rephrase. It says if you came from an environment that allow you to have good days in your life, mostly good days or moderate issues, so you don't have anything that makes you feel unsafe or insecure, then you will have a more open cortex. And that literally allow you to take advantage of the neurobiological of human to be more curious. Hi, thanks for the wave, Jack. Okay, I'm gonna change to my notes from the computer now because I only wrote this much by hand, or this much by hand, and I realized, yeah, my handwriting is too bad. So I'm gonna change to the computer notes. So I was lefting off about curiosity. If basically the point is, if you came from an environment that you had never felt very unsafe or very insecure, then you have more of a narrow neuropsychological advantage to be more curious about things. And if you're under threat, then you're not as curious. If you are feeling safe and secure every day, it already could be considered a privilege, is what the podcast was saying. The word privilege is getting almost a negative tone in today's society because of especially in the America, there's a lot about racial injustice or racism. So the word privilege has been used against or used to describe people who are more dominant or people who are a majority of the population or more rich or whatever. But in this podcast, it said if you're safe and secure every day, that could already be considered a privilege. And I totally agree to that, because it doesn't matter your race or whatever, your gender, your age, it doesn't matter, because I feel that I'm already privileged, and I'm very grateful that I'm in a safe and secure environment every day. So I consider that as already being privileged. And Oprah talked about the school she opened in South Africa. The girls there are like 60% of them lost parents out of AIDS every week, and they have problem getting to good, healthy, clean food and water. So when she opened the school, the girls were having emotional breakdowns, or some of them just escape, and they have behaviors that she doesn't understand. So she brought in people to help and to look at the situation. And what happened is they were diagnosing that these girls were diagnosed with PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, but they haven't really gone through a big disaster like a war, earthquake, or something like that. But they just gone through the prolonged feeling of insecure and unsafe, and that caused just the same as the capital T trauma. So the podcast host Brene, she said that she once went to a conference and they were talking about trauma. The presenter invited the colleague on the stage and gave her a chair. And then she asked the colleague to sit in the chair, and the presenter took out a balloon and popped it. And the audience say, this is trauma, but the presenter said that's not trauma. And then the presenter goes on to ask her colleague if she'll be open to have her hands and the legs tied to the chair. Then she's going to do the exact same thing, which is pop the balloon. Will she be willing? And then the colleague started crying and said, of course not. And is this trauma? So according to the doctor, this is a trauma. Yes, it's a situation or environment where we have no control, and that would be a trauma. Any activation of your stress system, even a little bit, that's unpredictable, uncontrolled, or prolonged, led to traumatic changes. But also, how do you get over it, or how do you cure or heal? And that's coming down to the second half of this strain that I learned, is through post-traumatic wisdom is very important. And I think I have a lot of that in me in my current days, which is the ability to use the negative of what happened to me and use it as a strength, as a power to uplift others, and the ability to feel compassion. So in order to heal from your traumas, it's still necessary to find out what happened in the past that caused certain symptoms today. And that's why I'm doing all these research and studying to figure out what really happened to me, or what didn't happen to me in the past that caused me all these anxieties. Even though I don't need to be anxious, I am actually in a secure and safe environment every day. So when I'm listening to these self-help books, according to the podcast speaker, this is the right approach and it needs to be done, is to search your past. Whatever negative things happen to me and cause the psychological damage can be healed by relationships and love. Your brain is able to draw new pathways to heal you, and the relationships are like the agents of change that will help to heal you. So your relationships are like the contractors that help you build these new pathways. But relationships is multiple people or social communities. For example, if you have the best therapist in the world, but you only see him or her once a week, and the rest of the time you're alone, that's not going to work. It's just like you have, like the therapist is like your material to build a new pathway. That's an analogy, but you also need the rest of the relationship in your regular life to keep building or transfer material, do all the handiworks to build your new pathways. So basically, relationship is the key here, according to the speakers. And loneliness is a better predictor of early deaths in smoking, of obesity, and cancer. So I didn't know that until I listened to this podcast, because I didn't know how much of a damage loneliness can hurt you. I thought it's just what you eat. If you have a good biological clock, like you sleep and wake up on time and eat on time, I thought it's about your exercise. Those are the most important to your health. But through this podcast and the book they wrote, which is called What Happened to You, it's also saying that loneliness is it's going to cause you to die earlier than any of the other things I said. So try not to be lonely, I guess. And I feel lonely quite a bit all the time, but I'm also very grateful that I have my husband and I have my dogs and I have my parents that I don't have a super good relationship with, but I have them. And I have some very, very, very close friends that are like sisters to me. And I come to know new friends through my YouTube and social media career. So I feel very grateful in that sense that I'm rarely lonely now. And my loneliness has really changed from previous few years. I used to feel very lonely. And I was really lonely to a point that I'm scared to quit my job, just because I don't want to be, or I should say, maybe my coworkers are a distraction and work is a numbing mechanism for me. So I don't have to face how lonely I am. And I was imagining without work, because in work we have not only just the social, regular social interactions, but you also have like the one-on-ones. So those one-on-ones are usually, you should have them for work purpose, but in our work culture, we quite often talk about family things or what's going on with your life in our one-on-ones. And that for me was one way to cure my loneliness. And I was really worried that if I don't have this job and I will have too much time and I will feel more lonely. And I also lose the people I used to talk to at work. So I feel more lonely. But I came to realize that it's not all true, because I can find new friends, and I found new friends through my social media business. I'm still very happy about that. And also, I feel like using work to numb is not the healthy way to cure loneliness. And I know what's not healthy way and what's healthy way. I can distinguish. So I'm trying to find more healthy ways to cure loneliness, and I think I'm on a more successful path now. So that's also my feelings about loneliness. And we all know humans, we are made to be social animals, and when we're with people, it gives us a more sense of feelings of belonging, and that give you a physical or emotional signal as that if you belong, your stress system gets better regulated, which decrease the need or probability that you need to be avoided, feeling avoided by seeking drugs or materialism. And this will prolong your life by having feelings with people you're surrounded with, that you're accepted, you're loved, or you're liked, and you belong with them. So the more you have, or the more you feel less lonely, the more wholehearted you feel, the less you need to seek for like materialism or worst case drugs, etc. And the podcast also said you need to be with people who truly sees you, who truly cares for you, and that would prolong your life as well. Often than not, those people are very hard to find. For some part of your life, that could be your parents when you're earlier in your age or in your life. And then if you're lucky enough to have parents that actually support you and understand you, that's a huge bonus. And for some stage of your life after you're adult, that person might become your husband or wife if you find them. or your siblings, friends, church members, if you go to church, or any communities you're involved with, to have a full connection. And I'm trying to emphasize full connection, not a semi-connection, but a full connection. Someone who can grow with you, become stronger with you. And that's super hard to find, those people, because we're in a world now where, I don't know, for me, we're just like, especially after school, all I had was work. And after work, I would go to like meetups to study about how to make more money, how to invest, etc. But the friends you meet there cannot be, I don't know how to say it in English, 就是那个中文字叫交心的朋友，交心就是 exchange heart with. That's very hard to find anymore as you age in life. So I was lucky enough that I have friends from when I was in elementary. Aurora is my best sister. I was lucky enough to have her. So at least I feel not so lonely. But what I think I'm kind of like the point I'm trying to make is you need to have somebody who truly cares for you and truly feel and sense with you, and you know that they're always there for you when you need them, and you're not causing them burdens, or hopefully you don't cause them burdens, stuff like that. Like I feel like I cause my husband burdens all the time, but I'm okay to do that, and I think he's not so okay with me to do that, but he is acceptive. Okay, anyways, enough about my life, and we keep going on. What the podcast is saying is sometimes you see a behavior that people makes you hate them, and hope you can tolerate. That's a scenario. Like some people, for example, my mom, she would say things that really makes me flip and make me feel very upset or unvalued or whatever, a lot of negative feelings. And then I used to, whenever those feelings arise, it would take over my logical, is it the prefrontal cortex in my brain? So I lose it immediately, and I start lose logic, and I get really emotional, and I want to yell at her and stuff like that. But after I'm more knowledgeable about how this all works, I can be more understanding. And I know my mom's background. I know her history. I know what she's gone through. So I feel I can understand more of why she's doing it. It's a scenario. Like some people will do this is to say all these negative stuff to make you feel so negative that you pay attention to them, and they just want to be loved. So they feel that if they do this thing to hurt you and you still love them, then it proves you actually do love them. And this is a very toxic situation to be in. And I kind of understand why it happens because I know my mom's history. But it doesn't, it's still very, very hard, basically. And in the book, which is the book I keep referring to, is called What Happened to Us? Or What Happened to You, sorry. The book is called What Happened to You, by Oprah and Dr. Perry. So in the book, Oprah said in her interviews, and she had interviewed a bunch of people from US president to Beyonce, or a bunch of people that's famous and successful. But whenever at the end of the interview, they will always ask Oprah, how did I do? Was that okay? And they will be like searching for signs on her face for acceptance and affirmation. And that's just like, that's why I'm also keep checking my, I can see how many viewers are viewing my live stream right now. Or I think that's also why I'm checking my metrics all the time when I wake up, or I quite want to track my metrics on how am I doing in my social media or in my business is because I'm looking for affirmation. I'm looking for, am I accepted by the public? Is what I'm doing what the public wants? And there is always a debate between, is what I'm doing what the public want or what I want? Because the whole reason why I'm doing this is because I want to do what I want, but the public also get benefits from it. Whether it's this kind of talks where I really go heart in heart with you and share what my experience are and what I've learned, and hopefully it will give you some inspirations and understanding more about your situation. Or if it's just other videos I do, which I answer about investment stuff, because it's also making your life better in one way or another. And that's my whole goal. So if I have met that goal, I've delivered a message and you actually learned or did something with the information I share and feel better in a way, then I've already reached my goal. Okay, so that's the feeling of looking for acceptance and affirmation, and that's very natural. No matter how successful you are, you still want to look for that from the other person. And this is beyond science. It boils down to this: is how were you loved? Belongs to, or being loved are the core of human experience. We're social species. We're meant to be in communities. Our body is created in such a way that allow us to be social relational creatures. So loving, caregiving are the foundations of our development. The book is called What Happened to You? And as an infant when you were an infant, it has a profound impact on your capability to love and to be loved by, and this is quoted by the Dr. Perry from the book. And loving, caregiving were already happened to you or not happened to you when you were an infant. So, and that leads to the next topic I had noted is what happened to you is important, but what's equally important is what did not happen for you. And these are quoted from the podcast. The reason why you carry the pain, angry, negligence might be because what happened for you or what didn't happen for you. And what's healing for Oprah, and she shared in the podcast, and is being able to provide others what she wasn't able to get. And that was super healing for her, like offering the girls schooling, caring. That not only offered benefit for the girls in Africa, but it also healed her. And I can totally relate to this in another way. It's more of my feeling for my dogs. So, and I never really talked about this, and I'm also one way I do this in English because I don't want my dad or my families in China to really understand, because I'm still feeling, I don't know how to open up with them, but I never really had a good safe childhood. Safe in me, I mean, I feel safe. I don't. I think from 0 to 20 years old of my life, when age 0 to 20, the size of 5 years ish, I lived with my grandma. The rest of the life, I was feeling scary. I was feeling insecure. I was feeling I might be left on the street, whether my parents intentionally or unintentionally made me feel that way. But those were my true feelings. I think as a kid, you need your parents to be there for you, and you need a shelter, and you need basically what my grandma and grandpa provided for me. They provided a shelter for me. They always cook for me on time. Like we always eat lunch at 11. We always go to sleep at 9. We have a routine. And my grandma and my grandpa, they never really yelled at each other in front of me. At least when I was younger, they don't do that. And now they're 90 plus years old, so they also don't do that anymore. But according to my dad and my aunts, their parents, which is my grandparents, usually yell at each other. But in my experience, they were not. And I think it's because when my grandparents were taking care of me, my grandparents were already 60 plus years old, and they've already gone through that and they got it sorted out by then. So when I grew up with them for the 5+ years of my life, I felt very secure. I feel very grounded. I feel safe. I feel I know how tomorrow's going to be. And I feel I know how many years from now it's going to be, and the house is going to be here. The house is paid off. I don't have to worry about any of that. But besides the time when I'm living with my grandparents, I often feel a little bit of homeless. 就是有点颠沛流离. That's the Chinese word for it. 就是 I don't know if my parents or my mom, because my dad was already remarried, so there's not really dad in the picture. It's really just mom in the picture. I was really worried, like, if we're gonna have enough money to pay for that mortgage. Are we gonna move again? And changing schools also did a lot of impact to me that I didn't really realize until recent years. Because every time I change school, I have to make new friends and I need to be accepted again. I need to be accepted to a new circle. And I think that's also why I'm okay with going to new environments now. I'm okay with meeting new friends now. I'm still scared and nervous, but I'm more acceptive to that than a lot of other friends I know. It's because I know how to maneuver in that change. And in the past, I don't. And as a kid, when you don't have confidence and you don't have ability to I don't know. It's just like you don't have all the ability to, or all the credentials to feel you're good. And then you need to be in a new environment to tell others you're good and have them accept you. It's kind of hard. And now I'm 30 plus years old and I'm finally feeling I'm good, but also worried at the same time, all the time. And that's why I keep checking my metrics on social media to see how am I behaving, even though I think I'm good. So you see the still uncertainty and anxious there. That's just how I've been. And then all of this is trying to relate to my dogs. So I have a very, very, very close relationship with my dogs. A bit unhealthy close with my dogs, meaning like I love and care for them so much that when my 2 dogs passed away in 2016, 2015, like my 2 dogs were with me for, one is 12 years, one was almost 16 years when they passed away. Especially when the second one passed away in 2016, I felt like I want to die with them. That's how unhealthy I was. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I need to grab a napkin and stop crying. This is so the reason why I was so attached to my dogs, I learned, is because I feel healing when I'm caring for my dogs. Because I feel like I wanted to give my dogs the feeling of what my grandparents give me, which is the secure, the safety, you're handled, you're loved, you're valued. That's what my grandparents give me, and I want to give my dog that feeling. And this is a feeling I never got or rarely get from my parents. Whether they really value me or not, they don't really say it, or they don't really deliver message or stuff that makes me feel I am loved, I am secure, I am valued, I'm worthy. I don't feel too much of that from my parents. So I'm trying to give my dogs that. My dogs, I'm pointing down because they're under my legs right now. I want to make sure my dogs feel they're loved, they're valued, they're cared, they always have my attention. So I always give them that, and then they give it back to me. So we have such a connection. So when they pass, I almost want to die with them. And this is very unhealthy, but I realize why I'm feeling that way. And yeah, oh my God, the tears doesn't stop, and I really need to stop. Anyways, that's too much information, and I'm just trying to share with you about this podcast I listen to, and what is trauma, and what is capital T trauma, capital T trauma, and the small t trauma, or small t, I don't know, whichever way. So either way, if you haven't experienced like capital T trauma, like war or earthquake or very strong, sharp trauma, and you're experiencing prolonged negligence, like you're not belonging, you're not valued, you're not worthy, you're not loved. If you feel that for a prolonged amount of time, it's going to trigger the same stress, and it's going to trigger the same PTSD, and you might have that, you don't know. So anyway, that's just what I've learned recently through this podcast. And let me just make sure I got the book title right. I think it's called What Happened to You, and it's by Oprah and Dr. Perry. I haven't read the book, but I listened to the podcast, and I think I kind of get the gist of it. I would love to read the book. I just haven't got to it yet, but I already want to share what I've felt and learned with you guys. And sorry, this is not investment stream. And the investment stream is still going to be every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific time, California time. So, and that's tomorrow. And I already collected a list of questions that I'll be answering for tomorrow night. And apologize that for those of you who are speaking only Mandarin, I couldn't do this in Mandarin because everything I learned from the podcast, they were speaking English. Okay, Jack, 你说你太棒了，我就是看了你辞职了，所做了不敢做的事情才关注你的，谢谢。Jack 说，我跟你一样，国内我们这个年龄的 parents don't know how to show their love。是的，我觉得很有可能是就是他们 don't know how to show their love. At least that's what I sense from my dad. But my parents have a lot of complications, and if you have parents and they haven't divorced and they are still with you, then very lucky. Okay, anyway, that's all today. I hope I won't lose too much subs from this. I still care about my metrics in the end, because in the end I still need to survive. And I'm not making any money from YouTube, so I care about metrics. I need to get to 2,000 watch hours to get enough metrics to start earning $100 a month or something. But anyway, it's hope. It's called hope. I need the hope. And that's why I care about the metrics. Every time the metrics grow, I feel my hope has grown. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you in the next stream, which is tomorrow at 9 p.m. And we'll be answering questions around growth and how to earn more money, stuff like that. Okay, have a good day, everyone. See you in the next stream. Bye-bye.